Hello and welcome to another Motors.co.uk in the know video with me, James Batchelor. Thanks for tuning in again this month. If you don't know me, I'm a motoring journalist who's worked for a number of leading national titles, and I'm a familiar face on YouTube. Today I'm answering questions sent in by Motors.co.uk users. Okay, let's crack on with the first question today. Hi, I would like to buy a used car, circa £17,000 budget, and I'm looking to keep it for around 3 to 4 years. I have no way of charging an electric car at home, so that is not an option for me. I do around 14,000 miles a year, and that is mostly motorway. I'd ideally like a car with at least 180 brake horsepower if possible. Any ideas on what I should look for? Well, I receive many questions like yours, and I love answering them as it allows me to dive into the classified adverts on motors.co.uk. Firstly, you haven't been specific on the type of car or body style you're after, so I'm going to recommend an assortment of used cars, which I think will be ideal for your needs. Now, all of the cars I've selected, they're diesels, based on what you've said. You're going to be covering mostly motorway miles. However, all the cars that I've recommended and selected, they do come with equivalent petrol engine options. My first recommendation would be the good old Volkswagen Golf. Your budget of £17,000 puts you right into the heart of the used Golf market. You're probably going to be looking at sort of the Mark 7 Golf, the previous generation. I'd opt for the Golf GTD. The GTD was, and it still is, it's effectively the diesel equivalent of the Golf GTI hot hatchback. And it came with similarly sort of discreet, sporty styling and stiffer suspension for better road holding. But it was powered by a more efficient engine. In this case, it was a 2-litre diesel engine with 181 brake horsepower. It's fun to drive on a country road, but crucially, it's also very hushed and refined on the motorway. For a bit more practicality, you could also check out the mechanically identical Skoda Octavia VRS 2-litre TDI. The benefit of going for one of those is you also look like an undercover cop on the motorway, if that's your kind of thing. If you want a car with a boot instead of a hatchback, you could do a lot worse than look at the BMW 320d. It's the classic executive motorway mile muncher, isn't it? There are tons of them in the classifieds, and it's easy to see why they're popular. They are great fun to drive, they're built well, and they have a desirable badge. But you've got to be picky, though, with a 3 Series. You've got to hunt out the best that you can find. Make sure it's got a full service history, and do a provenance check on it to make sure you're getting what you want. 2 other cars that are worth considering are the Vauxhall Insignia Grand Sport and the Ford Mondeo. What they lack in badge appeal, they more than make up for in usability. They are supremely comfortable to drive, they're also fun to drive, and they're packed with lots of technology. And for this kind of money, you're going to be getting the current generation versions of these cars. So they're not going to be that old. They are terrific, good value for money on the used market. Lastly, if you do want a bit of a high-riding car, something like an SUV, the BMW X320d is a good choice. As is the first generation Volvo XC60 D4. For around £17,000, you're going to be getting an X3 really desirable M Sport trim, or with the Volvo, an R-designed version, and that will come with a very reliable 2.4-litre 5-cylinder diesel engine. Hopefully that's given you enough food for thought there. Next question. Hi, I'm looking at an SUV, either a Jaguar F-Pace, a Mercedes GLC or GLE, or maybe a Range Rover Sport. Ideally with some performance and reliability. What should I consider? Right, firstly, there are plenty of F-Paces on the market. So your ideal specification shouldn't be hard to find. But whilst there are many happy owners out there, there are plenty who have not had trouble-free ownership. Aside from some patchy reliability, the F-Pace still looks very handsome, and it hasn't dated that much at all, like many of its rivals have. It's a real joy to drive, but try and go for one that came with an extended warranty pack. And the later cars, 2019 to 2020 onwards, had a better built interior. Be picky, because like I say, they aren't the most reliable cars in the world, but they look great and they're great to drive as well. So be picky, and hopefully you can hunt out the best one for you. The Mercedes GLC, well, that car unfortunately showed up a lot of the F-Pace's weaknesses, actually, namely in the reliability and quality department. Now, whilst the V8 powered AMG GLC 63 is a real hoot, most GLCs are not. They are comfortable, laid back and serene to drive, but they're not fun to drive at all. Now, what the GLC lacks in outright thrills, it makes up for in technology and interior quality. That's not to say the GLC doesn't offer fault-free ownership. There were quite a few recalls during its lifetime, so make sure these have been done. The same goes for the GLE. It's a slightly older model than the GLC, and offers much of the smaller car's appeal, but it does have a larger body shape. Okay, so now, like the F-Pace, the Range Rover Sport heralded a newfound confidence for Land Rover when it arrived in 2013. I remember it very, very well. Very exciting new car launch. It offers all of the off-road ability of the larger Range Rover, but it's a bit more fun to drive. Actually, it's a lot more fun to drive, a lot more dynamic. Even the oldest models are still stylish, and they just ooze desirability, don't they? Now, Land Rover reliability, like Jaguar, isn't the strongest, so be picky on the history and don't buy the cheapest you come across. My recommendation, though, would be the F-Pace. I mean, if you find an F-Pace in good condition, average mileage, full service history, and proof of being lavished upon by the previous owners, you're going to have a great car. Okay, last question for today. Hi, I'm looking to change my Volkswagen Golf R and thinking about a 10 or 11 plate low mileage Porsche, as I've just been landed with a big bill due to a timing chain issue. Is there anything that I need to be wary of which might put me off this particular model? Well, at this kind of age, you're going to be looking at the 997 generation 911. It's generally considered this version is very reliable. Gearboxes and mechanicals, they're all very strong, very tough, but there are a few things you do need to look out for though. Now, early 997.1 Carrera engines, they can suffer from both scoring and intermediate shaft bearing failure. So later cars can be a better buy because they don't really suffer from those faults. Watch out for a ticking sound from the engine when it's idling. And if you look at the exhaust, if the left-hand one is sooty and the right-hand one isn't, it could mean an engine replacement is imminent. Do look out for those things. Boxsters and Caymans, now they were once considered a poor man's 911, but that isn't the case anymore. The 987 series of these cars are very reliable, especially the Gen 2 versions, which appeared in late 2008 and went all the way through to 2013. These cars are deemed to be even better than the earlier ones. But, you know, there are still many ropey Porsches out there. So you've got to be careful. You've got to have your wits about you. For the Boxster and the Cayman, make sure you find one with a fully stamped up service history, taking special note of regular oil changes, and don't be tempted by low mileage either. It's very easy to be tempted by cars with fewer miles on, but that can mean the car's been sitting around for a long time. So a high mileage Porsche isn't necessarily bad news. Check for suspension knocks as well and slipping clutches. The last thing I'd say about this is bagging a good Porsche will be a decision you won't regret. So do consider getting it professionally checked with an independent before you actually part with your cash. Do that and you could find yourself a fantastic car which you will enjoy for many, many years to come. Okay, that's it for this month's Motors.co.uk in the know. Hopefully those answers have been useful to the people who have posed those questions. If you've got a question that you'd like me to answer, do follow descriptions in the description box down below using the hashtag AskJames. Hopefully I'll get to answer some of your questions next month. But in the meantime, thanks very much for watching and see you very soon. Bye bye.